We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We also welcome those who are watching us by webcast, and we're looking forward to a great debate tonight. Again, thank you for joining us. Tonight is the final debate for the candidates for the 2010 Virginia 5th Congressional District Republican Party. We are down to 2 weeks before the Virginians go to the polls for the June 8th primary to determine which of the 7 candidates will represent the 5th District in the general election. Tonight, 6 of the 7 candidates are with us. Senator Robert Hurt is unable to be with us tonight due to a prior engagement. He communicated his apologies, and we assured him of our understanding. The candidates with us tonight are, starting at your left, Ken Boyd, Ron Farron, Jim McKelvey, Mike McPadden, Fida Morton, and Lawrence Berger. If you would please all stand as we pledge allegiance to our flag and opening prayer.
First question, this is for Mr. Berger. What is the #1 issue that you would advocate upon taking office, and why?
Well, there's an awful lot of issues that we could talk about on a national level, but since I want to be the 5th District representative, my #1 issue is going to be jobs. And that's what we need in this community, in the 5th District, and particularly in the southwest part of the state. We have got to create jobs, and we've got to do that fast so that we can bring this economy back. That's the way you're going to do it. I've had some experience in doing this. I've brought over 2,000 jobs to the northern part of the district where I'm on the Board of Supervisors. Now, people say, well, that's what you did in Albemarle. What are you going to do for the southern part of the district? Well, give me the chance. Nominate me, let me go to Washington. I'll show you I can do the same thing all throughout this whole district.
What is the #1 issue or action you disagreed with coming from the administration of George W. Bush? Mr. Boyd, we'll start from you and come into the game.
Well, first of all, I want to say what I think he did right. I think he did an excellent job of keeping this nation safe from terrorism. And that's one thing that I think will be his legacy for it. But I also was very upset with the amount of spending that he allowed to go on. I think he went way too far and that the Congress allowed too much spending to go on, and that's put us into a deficit situation. And to be a conservative, I think you have to be able to say no to spending, and I think that's what he didn't do. That's something that I will do when I go to Washington, and that would be my #1 choice.
Okay, Mr. Boyd, this question is for you regarding the economy. What is your plan to increase employment in Virginia?
Well, first of all, as I mentioned, we've got to work on jobs. We've got to work on infrastructure in the southwestern part of the state if we're going to do that. And I'm talking about highways and internet capabilities. These are all things that have to be done in order to bring jobs to this community. Our economy is not good, and we all know that. We've been losing jobs to overseas, and particularly the manufacturing sector, and that's hurt areas like Martinsville, which is where my wife's from and where I lived for many years. And that's something that we've got to turn around, is to bring manufacturing jobs back here. And we do that by passing the fair tax, by reducing taxes, by putting a level playing field. We lost these jobs because of labor costs. We're not going to bring our labor costs down to third world countries. But what we can do is we can reduce the cost of development and of manufacturing by reducing taxes on these manufacturers, and that's what we need to do.
This is on the economy and domestic policy as well. If the health care bill were repealed or struck down by a court, what kind of health care bill, if any, would you propose, and why? Mr. Boyd?
Well, I know something about health insurance because that's been part of my livelihood in my financial services business for a long time. And one thing I would say is we need medical savings accounts, because these have worked, they're very successful, and it's a good way to lower costs and down. Obviously, we need to be able to allow companies to sell insurance across state lines. The competitive system, that's the best way to get this done. And then the tort reform is another one. But there's another one. I was talking to a group of physicians the other day, and the thing that they mentioned to me was allow doctors to take a full deduction for pro bono work, if you want to call it that, the same way that a lawyer can. If we allow the doctors to be able to take a full deduction for any service that they provide for people who can't provide for that service, this is a great way to provide to those who are uninsured, and then the doctors will not be in such a bad shape.
The United Nations has been ineffective against Iran in its pursuit of nuclear weapons. If Iran were capable of arming a nuclear weapon within 12 months, and I visited with Israeli government officials in January and February, and they clearly believe that they are capable, what steps would you propose to prevent that from happening? And along with that answer, would you support a preemptive military strike by the United States against Iran to prevent them from obtaining nuclear weapons?
Well, I think the first thing we have to do is get the politics out of the military. I'm just sick and tired of lay administrators and politicians trying to tell the military how they should operate and what they should do. I think this ought to be the first step, is that we ought to back off and let them do the job. I've talked to a number of veterans that have been in theater over in the Middle East, and what they tell me is their rules of engagement are just horrible, and they can't believe that they have their hands tied so much. We ought to let them loose and let them do their job, because they do it the best in the world. Now, we need to support Israel, absolutely. I don't know that I would support a preemptive strike on Iran or not, because that could really be a powder cake for us to do that. But we absolutely have to stand behind Israel. And certainly if they were willing to do that, if they're willing to be our military force in that district and to preserve their own, then I would be 100% behind them.
Do you support a timetable to withdraw our troops from Iraq? Mr. Boyd.
Well, I want to take the advantage of this question to also thank our veterans that are here tonight, and particularly my oldest son, who's right here in the front. He's a veteran, and I appreciate his service to our country as well. We cannot put a timetable to when we're going to pull out of Iraq. That would be absolutely ridiculous. And here we go back again. This is the kind of things that politicians would do, not what the military would do. You would never find a good military person who would say, well, we got to set a timetable, and it'd be like a football game. When that's up, we're going to go home and just leave it there. Our enemies would just sit there and wait for that to happen, and then they're just going to take the country back. Absolutely not. No timetables. The timetable should be win the war, make them self-sufficient, then bring our troops back.
Of the policies or laws proposed or signed into law by the Obama administration, which one poses, in your view, the biggest threat to free enterprise, and why?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you think that Fannie and Freddie were an economic crisis in this country, it's nothing compared to what's going to come along with cap and trade. Fannie and Freddie destroyed the housing market, as you know, under the guise that it was providing affordable housing. Cap and trade is another thing that's going to destroy the economy here, based on the fact that it is for our environment that we need to do this. It does nothing more than create a huge market for Wall Street, is what it's going to do. Because where do you think all these carbon offsets are going to be traded? That's why Goldman Sachs is 100% behind this. They're behind the trading center already set up in Chicago to take care of this. This is going to be a huge hit to this economy if we go ahead with cap and trade. And you know what? Obama's telling us that. He's saying your energy bills are going to skyrocket. So he's not only is he planning this thing, he's telling us up front what he's going to do. We've got to stop cap and trade for sure.